The wild is a hostile place. Out there in nature, animals live immersed in constant danger. Natural selection shows no mercy. And solitary species must learn to survive on their own. They have no choice but to face dangers without any kind of help. This sometimes leads them to have to fight amongst each other. It's common to hear about this brutal fight for survival in nature, the triumph of the strongest and most ruthless. It's a wild and beastly view of the world around us. However, some branches of the Tree of Life found an alternative strategy. Gradually, organisms emerged that opted for mutual understanding to face adversities together. This is the story of those who believed that by cooperating, they could excel even further. Sometimes it's not the strongest that are the best adapted, but rather those who have the closest allies. Africa, specifically the Kenyan savanna. It's late summer, a time when herbivores of several species migrate southward. The lack of rain has dried up the grasslands of Masai Mara, and thousands of animals are forced to move in search of water and food. Herds of zebras, elephants, topis, wildebeests and other antelopes march steadily. They travel in large groups, each moving at its own pace. No matter the importance of the setbacks, they can't afford to stop for long. The herds continue forward without waiting for anyone, as it's well known that falling behind carries certain risks. Traveling is dangerous, especially when the path is loaded with predators. Hungry lionesses carefully scan every movement, seeking out the weakest links. And they begin to approach, causing confusion. Sooner or later, the commotion will lead someone to leave the safety of the group. Divide and conquer. For these herbivores, staying united is their only guarantee of survival. No matter what happens, they must keep moving forward. After several days of migration southward, the herds encounter another obstacle that forces them to come to a halt. When you're tired and thirsty, coming across a river usually feels like a divine blessing. But in this case, the water is teeming with hungry Nile crocodiles, awaiting their moment of glory. If they want to continue on their journey to the lush green plains of the Serengeti, they have no choice but to cross it. But who will be the first brave soul to leave the safety of the group and risk their own life? The large herbivores aren't the only ones migrating across the savannah. During the European winter, white storks enjoy a warm holiday on the African continent. When spring arrives, they take flight in large flocks, heading north to their European breeding grounds. A long journey of over 5,000 kilometers. But they're not the only ones. All over the planet, many flocks of birds migrate in every direction in search of favorable weather conditions. Flying in formation reduces air resistance, allowing them to save energy and travel further with less effort. Also, traveling in groups helps them navigate more accurately during the journey, using the sun, stars, moon, terrain, and even the Earth's magnetic field. The benefits are compounded. This way, flocks of starlings, storks, geese, seagulls, swallows, cranes, and flamingos, among many others, arrive at their destination year after year. The journey of the storks to the Iberian Peninsula usually takes about 3 weeks. After crossing the Strait of Gibraltar, they spread out across the European continent in search of the same place where they nested the previous year. The mate pairs, who remain together for life, begin by gathering the necessary materials to rebuild their nest. As we can see, storks never stop collaborating. They often build their nests close to one another in order to live in the safety of the neighborhood. Sometimes even neighbors of other species join them, like egrets and sparrows, who have no qualms about occupying the floor below them. Sharing a home isn't something that pleases all species. In many cases, the struggle for territory is part of their daily lives. But to meet the champion species when it comes to cohabiting, we must fly to the island of Madagascar. You could say that rather than neighborhoods, Sakalava weavers have the skill to weave palaces. Notice that only the ones with the yellow heads do the sewing. Exactly. Interestingly, only the males are the ones responsible for doing this intricate work, and they do so for a good reason. To attract females. The larger and sturdier the nest, the more chances they have of impressing potential mates. It looks like one's coming to investigate. Not this one, it's too frayed. Nor this one, the entrance is too small. This one here is perfect. Like storks, male and female Sakalava weavers also work together to feed and protect their chicks. And they take turns in watching the nest too. Living in society allows these weaver birds to be more effective in defending their territory from unwanted visitors. Such as, for example, intruding males or even predators. When they sense that something isn't right, Sakalava weavers sound the alarm, warning the whole colony. If the Madagascar ground boa decides to climb up, they'll have no choice but to abandon the nest. False alarm. Seems like it was just looking for a place to rest. They're safe this time. As we've seen, alliances can also be very useful when detecting potential threats. If there's any animal specialized in doing that, it would be the meerkats. Found in arid regions of southern Africa, like the Kalahari Desert, these meerkats live in mobs of up to 30 individuals. Although instead of trees, meerkats inhabit complex underground galleries. At dawn, their favorite activity is getting their breakfast. They eagerly search for insects, fruits, eggs, and small vertebrates to eat. While foraging, they are so immersed that they hardly lift their eyes from the ground. A somewhat dangerous fact, as meerkats are themselves a tasty snack for many predators. Fortunately for them, natural selection has fostered altruistic behavior in this species. Meerkats have organized themselves and created the role of the Sentinel. This hero's job is to tirelessly watch over the group's safety. From an elevated position and standing on their hind legs, they scan the ground and the air almost without blinking in search of potential threats. Unfortunately, their patience doesn't usually last. Keeping watch while your companions eat is fine, but not for too long. For this reason, sentinel shifts only last for half an hour. When one leaves their post, another takes their place quickly. And so they rotate, keeping the group safe at all times. Well, this one didn't last long. Wait, isn't that a jackal skulking over there? Each type of danger has its own alarm call. This way, meerkats can tell if danger is lurking from up in the air or from the ground, as well as the distance and severity of the threat. This alarm call could mean, "Watch out! A black-backed jackal is approaching and it looks hungry." Time to head back home. Their alliance, in this case, saves lives. Hunting alone can be far less effective, and often the jackal has to slink away with its tail between its legs. Food is a limiting factor. Many species are forced to fight for it if they don't want to starve to death. However, there are other animals that do quite the opposite. By joining forces, they maximize their chances of success in hunting. Orcas hold a privileged position in the ranking of highly organized animals. They are large cetaceans specialized in capturing all kinds of prey using techniques that are as varied as they are complex. In the Valdez Peninsula in Argentina resides a family of orcas known for their hunting method that is unique in the whole world: intentional stranding. This technique involves hunting pinnipeds such as elephant seals and sea lions by pulling their own bodies out of the water. It's a learning process passed down from generation to generation in which almost all members of the group cooperate. However, this technique, as surprising as it is dangerous, poses the risk of them getting stranded on the shore. Although, if this happens, the pod comes to the rescue of the stranded one, pushing it back into safe harbor. Now that's an alliance. No wonder they're known as the wolves of the sea. In the north of the Iberian Peninsula, located over 10,000 kilometers away, a pack of Iberian wolves is chasing their prey. Like orcas, wolves also coordinate for hunting. Although they usually use the divide and conquer technique. The larger and stronger wolves select the target prey and the other members join the hunt. Once they've separated it from the group, they pursue it with their relentless wolf trot, which they can keep up for several hours. Sometimes a small group takes a detour and ambushes the prey from the opposite side, attacking it by surprise. But it doesn't always go well. When the wild boar gets tired, it tries to seek refuge, sealing its fate. Meanwhile, the orca family has managed to catch a large elephant seal pup, which struggles to return to the shore. Interestingly, instead of eating it, the pod begins to play with it. This behavior can be very useful to the young orcas. Facing their prey for the first time under controlled conditions and in the company of their pod is undoubtedly a great learning experience. It's been shown that play not only helps the young ones, but the whole pod benefits. Having fun together helps strengthen the bonds between family members. It seems that cooperation during play also has many advantages. In nature, games come in many forms, but none are as compromising as the games of love. Getting the attention of a potential mate is not easy at all, so many species choose to eliminate their competitors. They can only pass their genes down to the next generation through conflict. But falling in love doesn't always require competing. Rather the opposite. In the most remote parts of the Chilean Andes, the melting of ice at the summits doesn't quite reach the coast, but instead forms extensive brackish water lakes, creating the perfect habitat for the endangered Andean flamingos. These birds spend countless hours sifting through the mud for food, each of them at their own pace. In this secluded haven, oblivious to the passage of time, tranquility reigns. Until this precise moment. Suddenly, food is no longer a priority. They glance at each other. It's as if they've been waiting for this moment for ages. The time has come for the dance. In a matter of seconds, the Andean flamingos cause a great commotion, capable of disrupting even the deepest peace. However, don't be fooled, as this apparent chaos actually implies perfect synchrony, worthy of the finest ballet agencies. An infallible technique perfected over thousands of years of evolution. It's the perfect dance to capture the female's attention. Gradually, the more distracted males join the party too, heightening the spectacle even further. Suddenly, as if the conductor of the orchestra had lowered the baton, the ensemble dissipates in the blink of an eye. Dancing together like this allows them all to breed at the same time. Thus, the little chicks will be born simultaneously, and they'll be better protected against potential predators. Now it's time to regain strength. In a few months, the chicks will need all of their parents' energy. Raising offspring is a very costly affair, especially if the little ones depend solely on the protection of their parents and their ability to find food. Not to mention the effort involved in being a single-parent family. But as always, there are species that have opted to organize themselves in a different way. In the Zambian savanna, several animals make a collaborative effort to take care of the young in their community. And this is known as cooperative breeding. The ones that stand out the most are the nurseries of the African wild dogs. In fact, these canines do absolutely everything as a team. From hunting and defending their territory to resting and, above all, taking care of the cubs, which is the pack's foremost priority. In this community, although there's only one alpha couple that does the breeding, all other members take responsibility for the well-being of the youngest. While part of the group goes out in search for food, the rest take turns to stand guard over the den. As we can see, alliance is the cornerstone of the lives of African wild dogs. Could this be the reason why they hold the highest success rate in cooperative hunting in the animal kingdom, succeeding in 9 out of 10 attempts? Upon returning from the hunt, the youngest ones are the first to receive food. A rich and nutritious regurgitated puree. But there's more. The sense of belonging and care for the group is such that when a member falls ill, gets injured or ages, the rest of the pack also takes care of them, slowing down their pace to adapt to everyone's needs. Here, no one gets left behind. One for all and all for one. We're moving on to the lush mangroves along the shores of Borneo. Here, numerous creatures use the opportunity of the low tide to approach the beach. As the water recedes, it exposes small snacks hidden among the roots. An opportunity that the crab-eating macaques know how to make the most of. Once satisfied, it's time to return to the treetops if they don't want to end up drenched. Crab-eating macaques use the hours of high tide for grooming. That is, removing parasites from each other's fur. And of course, they eat them afterwards. There's always room for dessert. But beyond hygiene, grooming a neighbour is a type of long-term cooperation known as reciprocal altruism. Through this behaviour, the groomer invests their valuable time to benefit the other, with the expectation that they will respond similarly or benefit them in the future. Having good allies is very useful when living in a group. You never know who might come to your aid in a fight. Grooming is so widespread among primates that it now holds a fundamental role in the dynamics and hierarchy of various groups of monkeys and apes. It's incredible how evolution has turned the tables and imbued social significance into the act of ridding each other's bodies of unwanted little creatures. And speaking of insects, those that gather in their thousands. One might think, how can there not be ruthless competition when so many individuals accumulate in the same space? So far, we've only associated alliances with species of high intellect. However, that doesn't mean teamwork doesn't exist in groups that are considered simpler, cognitively speaking. In fact, if we delve a little deeper, we arrive precisely at the pinnacle of mutual support in the world of the miniature. Insects, like most termites, ants and bees, form highly complex societies. Here, each individual acts exclusively for the well-being of the community. Highly organized, they work as if they were cells of one superorganism. In each colony, there is usually only one fertile queen, specialized in laying eggs, accompanied by thousands of workers responsible for caring for and feeding the larvae, as well as building, repairing, and protecting the nest. These are several tasks at which termites excel, as they're capable of erecting impressive structures. Through the combination of saliva, feces, materials from their surroundings, and teamwork, they build solid structures that can exceed 10 meters in height. While termite workers stand out for their excellent architectural skills, ants stand out for their ability of tirelessly exploring. They are specialists in locating food outside the nest, communicating the exact location of their find to the rest of the colony, and rushing out in droves to collect it. And they do this thanks to the chemical trails they leave behind, allowing them to form long lines over invisible roads. Once on location, they assist each other in dismantling the food to distribute the load before returning to the anthill. And precisely, hand in hand with the tireless ants, we delve into a new type of alliance, which is also widespread in nature. Is it possible for different species to hold an alliance with each other? Of course, we're talking about mutualistic symbioses, associations in which all parties benefit. Leafcutter ants are the first farmers in history. These creatures collect plant material to cultivate fungi inside their nests. In return, these fungi feed the colony with their own bodies, the mycelium. But these aren't the only allies of ants. In fact, they also invented animal husbandry long before humans did, but not exactly to our advantage. It turns out that certain pests for our crops, such as the disliked aphids and scale insects, have been associated with ants for millions of years. Ants literally herd them from one place to another, helping them spread across the plant. In return, the aphids and scale insects provide them with a precious resource. As a byproduct of digesting plant sap, these hemipterans secrete a super nutritious, sugary liquid for their caretakers, known as honeydew. Ants enjoy it so much that, like good shepherds, they defend them to the death against predators such as fierce ladybirds. If one gets too close for comfort, they don't hesitate to swiftly expel it. Only together can they defend their little sheep from the wolf's attack. It's amazing what these small beings can teach us. Let's revisit the bees for a moment, because rather than leaving chemical trails, they perform dances to signal the direction and distance of the food source. Then they leave the hive in search of nectar and pollen. When they encounter the target flowers, one of the most relevant forms of cooperation on the planet occurs. Pollination. In this mutualistic symbiosis, bees obtain food in exchange for contributing greatly to the reproduction of thousands of plants, by transferring their pollen from one flower to another. But they're not alone. Numerous insects such as butterflies or beetles, or even vertebrates such as bats or hummingbirds, contribute to the fertilization of plants and the dispersion of their fruits. If this type of alliance didn't exist, the world would be a very different place. And indeed, there are unions of organisms that are essential for the life of both. These are extreme symbioses, which require an extreme alliance as well. Covering rocks or hanging from dead branches, we find beings that appear to be from another planet. Lichens, with their multiple appearances, have managed to colonize almost all known ecosystems, from the poles to the equator. These beings are formed by two organisms so deeply interconnected that they can no longer exist independently. The fungus creates an optimal environment for algae to thrive, enabling them to produce nutrients through photosynthesis, which both organisms feed on. Who would have thought that these small beings would be so fascinating? And from these miniature forests, we venture into the great jungles. The classical conception of relationships between plants is nothing other than a slow and fierce competition for resources such as light, water, and nutrients in the soil. However, recent studies in forest ecology propose a more encouraging view of reality. But to get to the bottom of the matter, we must delve into the depths of the earth. Down here, plants associate their roots with fungi to achieve great things. They form structures known as mycorrhizae. Like a wild internet, mycorrhizae create extensive networks that connect plants to each other, allowing for communication between them and the exchange of nutrients. In other words, allowing for their cooperation. It's no wonder that people are starting to talk about the intelligence of forests. Throughout our journey, we've encountered a new and enlightening view of nature. On numerous occasions, natural selection has favored species that form alliances over those that compete. Moreover, they don't usually cooperate only within the same species, but rather form close relationships with other species too, that are mutually beneficial for the entire ecosystem. Could we therefore be talking about our planet as a single living organism? A symbiotic planet? What happens in one territory can affect others, even if they're thousands of kilometers apart. We live in an interconnected world where organisms interact in a dynamic balance, influencing and co-evolving, depending on each other to survive. Every creature, every environment, and every element is intertwined in the symphony of life, where each note, however distant it may seem, resonates in harmony with the ensemble. Do we as humans want to be a discordant note? Or contribute our small part to this melody? Perhaps it's time to rethink our relationship with nature. There's still one story left to be resolved. If no one gets their feet wet, they'll soon starve. Unfortunately, there's always someone who's willing to change things and gathers up the courage. And the rest, of course, follow behind. That together we are stronger.